攞去睇醫生啦 is what Zhao Yunfa tells us. So if you were to translate this back into standard Chinese, how would you do this now? Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. So this one is actually, I don't know why I find this easier. So law in Cantonese, oh, sorry. Law is na, okay? Law, and then when we say tai, right, that's the equivalent of hon. So tai is what we say, hon is what we would write. You would see this in poems. The technical term for a nurse would be a honwusi. It's just hon, but then we don't say honwusi, or like, you know, we would say wusi nurse as a third person, but when you call them over, you would use guleung. Side note. La lo he tai yi sung la. Well, I mean, he's not one of the dai lows. He's just kind of like on the bottom rung of the mafia ladder. So you shouldn't expect him to get paid all that much. Yeah, so if you were to write out taishu in written Chinese, it would be honshu. Or okay, how about this? If you watch a mohawk pin, you know those old martial arts movies. If someone makes a move, like he throws some sort of fireball out at you or something, right? It'd be like, oh, honju. You know, oh, look at this move. Bam. That is when you would see hon. Okay, he says, 攞去睇醫生啦, and then we translate that as 拿去看醫生. I think in this case, you would translate it as ba, right? In written Chinese. 拿去看醫生吧, I think would be more proper, right? Okay. And 金 is 见. 金, I guess in Mandarin and written Chinese, yes, it would be more formal. But if we're bringing it back to just strictly Cantonese, 見鬼, yeah. 見過鬼仲未怕黑咩? Yeah, that's a phrase. Let me see. Because you wouldn't, with that phrase, right? 見過鬼仲未怕黑咩, right? You would say 見鬼, but then you wouldn't say 睇鬼. It's sort of like see versus watch, I think. So tai or hon would be more watch, and then gin is more see. In this case, if you're going to see a doctor, you cannot translate between Chinese and English though, and get a one-to-one in this case. Yeah, it's not formal in Cantonese like Sean was saying earlier. It's just another word which you described looking at something in some manner, whether it is to see or watch. So, okay, back to the phrase now. So he tells him, 多謝 mako. In Cantonese, we say 多謝, but in written Chinese or Mandarin, 多謝 sounds very formal, actually. So instead of 多謝, can the Mandarin speakers give me what you would say instead? 谢了 or just 谢谢. And then he calls him mako, but the way I translated it was 马哥. That's why in Mandarin in Taiwan they call his character 小马哥. But I don't know. I don't like that term all that much, just because like adding the word 小 to someone like Chow Yun-fat, especially in this film, it doesn't make sense. But that's just me. 多謝 in Cantonese, 谢谢 in Mandarin. Moving on. 識唔識睇㗎? Right. Like, do you know how to read? So just going back to what we were saying earlier, right? 看書. 看新聞, 看書, 看新聞, right? To read books, to read newspapers. Even though in English we would say to read, you wouldn't say tok tok would be to read, but you don't really say that in Chinese, right? So you use in vernacular Cantonese, it'd be 睇書, 睇新聞. So he's asking him, 你識唔識睇? Do you know how to read? Okay, so back to the phrase, 你識唔識睇啊? 識唔識睇啊? So in this case, it's used as a question, but it's actually more of a used as like a sort of neutral statement. Sean, can I get a bit of help here? Yeah. As far as how to use that particle, normally it's just a statement. In this case, it is, yeah, I would tend to go with yanjing. And then Sean had also put out another thing in the chat, which is ga is a contraction of ge a, and that's also a possibility. It's just that when we say it, it's really hard to figure out. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Okay, so this sentence right here, 识唔識睇㗎? How would you translate that into standard Chinese? 你看得懂,认不认字? These are all different ways to translate it. To go for, I guess, more of a one-for-one translation, the way Herb translated it is what I would go for, actually. So I translated it as 你會唔會看的? 你會不會看的? You're probably right. So I'm going to change it right now. Still tiklong, because Mark did not give a response. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the implication, right? I didn't hear you, right? So once again, I would translate it like as 怎么了, liu. Yeah, but he doesn't say hey, because that would be a one-for-one translation for sure. but it's not hey, it's 咩啊 literally 什么 but in this context I would translate it as 怎么了咋了 yeah 咋了 but then 咋了 is very much a northern thing, and so even that does not work with written Chinese for like the pan sinosphere, if you want to say it. Yeah, I would tend to use more 怎么了 as opposed to 咋了. Okay, then he says here 唔識就唔好扮嘢. Okay, so let's break this down, right? 唔識 to not know, right? And then 扮嘢, right, to fake it. So 扮 as in 装扮你不要装你会的. So 唔識对. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, so I'll fix the Cantonese part. So let me stop here because I think I've tired out everybody. And we're only in the first, we're not even done with the first 5 minutes of the film here. I think it's already taken up an hour and a half. Questions? Any other questions do you guys have so far?